concerns. I understand the questions of uncertainty, comments, thoughts. Hey, we're going to do this. What about this? And that is why we decided to meet with Faculty Senate, students, and staff. What I can give you is the information that I have available to me and my understanding of how I'm reading the bill, right? As we progress in this process, we will share more as we know more. Because it does affect not just you all, but all future potential students as well, right? So as we move forward with the board, making sure that we discuss with them how important this communication could have been if it came out.
So my concern is with this bill is the timing of Trump revoking this executive order of supporting tribal institutes federally. What can you tell us about that? Not just the bill, but with this revocation of like support from the government.
Sure. So the executive order that was revoked was one of many. And what I can tell you about that executive order is there was no funding tied to that. Okay?
Okay, with that funding, if we were in this kind of different charter, would that then be effective?
Yep. No. That executive order did not revoke any funding for tribal colleges in general.
So then,
Yeah, we talked a lot about the bill. If you also have questions about executive orders, feel free to ask, and I'll answer what I can.
so I'm still new to this. So if it didn't revoke any funding for TCUs, what did it revoke the money for exactly?
A commitment to support some of this. I don't really remember. I didn't read the full executive order of the first one. Yeah. But as far as funding, tribal college funding was not affected by revoking that executive order.
If this bill passes, what would happen to all federal government workers here at the college?
So my understanding of the language currently is that Haskell employees, on the day that the full transition is enacted, would no longer be federal employees. They would be employees of Haskell Indian Nation First. So it would be basically they transfer from federal to Haskell, and they would maintain their federal retirement benefits and healthcare benefits. Now, there are federal. We would report to the Haskell Board of Regents, however that is structured, and then we would provide yearly reports to Congress.
So with those yearly reports to Congress, what if they mean that our purchases weren't necessary? Like, is our funding, because I was told like it's about 31 million was the proposed that they gave us. Is that secure 31 million like baseline every single time minimum 30 million, or can it change throughout the years? And if it does change, like let's say this year we get 30 million, but next year we only get 22 million. How do we account for that 8 million difference?
Good question. One, currently the bill is 21 million, not 31 million. And two, the best answer I can give is an answer I gave similarly earlier, but I'm okay giving because you were not here. IAIA, as a congressionally chartered institution, does their appropriations request every year. So what I would imagine is it would be similar to that, where it's not long, it's like a 7-page document. You basically write up the different areas that you have in the college and then present that as your appropriations ask.
But what happens if they deny it or they don't find it enough? Like I just don't understand.
I don't know because I haven't asked IAIA, hey, have they ever denied you?
What happened
about
to?
Howard University? Howard University functions the same way. Their tuition is $45,000 a year.
I understand that. And you can, as I told everyone here, you can actually look up and see what IAIA, Howard, like what their appropriations asks are. And the IAIA and Howard appropriation sheets that they ask are very similar.
So, would we become a public university with native preference?
That is a question that would be fleshed out through the finalization process. The way it's written now is native preference, yes. So the way I'm reading it is public institution with native preference.
So we would lose the.
University does where even though it's an HBCU, they service non-black students, correct? So there would be non-native students who have no tribal affiliation allowed to go to this school, correct?
Similar to IAIA, which is a tribal college that has non-native students. But keep in mind, most,
So
if
how
not
can we
all
service
other tribal
non-native
colleges are open institutions.
But it doesn't matter, yes or no. Would Haskell service non-native students with no tribal affiliation?
We can't answer that right now because there's not enough detail, and this is draft number 1. Right? We have to, there's a lot of things we cannot answer definitively until this proceeds and we see what that looks like.
You keep on asking me our questions. What's your name?
Some I can't directly share because they're probably more opinion than anything else. I will say the transition period, right? So if you look, I have questions about the transition period, and that's actually a question that's been developed by the faculty staff as well. So we're gonna send that one up the chain.
So if you were sending the bill for acquisitions, would we be able to flesh it out a little bit more so that we can fix some of the more concerning issues at this campus, like those road, those foundations are sinking into the ground? Would we be able to send acquisitions to fix that, or is it just something we have to do on our own?
If we were under a congressional charter, our acquisitions process would look different. So tuition, as I explained earlier, this is one of those things we cannot answer with a definitive because we don't know what the final bill will look like for funding.
I'm a little curious how the sports programs will they be in a different division?
No. 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 The way athletics is split up is it has a lot to do with funding, size, competition level, stuff like that. So we would more than likely stay where we're at within athletics.
With this, you continue to reiterate this is only the first round of the bill, but some of our concerns, will they be addressed as you fight for the changes that are gonna happen within this bill? To be like one of the things that are highlighted, especially with keeping it indigenous here as opposed to, other.
Right. So I'm still learning this legislative process, and my understanding is the solicitation of feedback is to gain an understanding of people's thoughts, their concerns, their questions about the bill as put forth, right? So not knowing anything about this process, my expectation would be some things would be changed. But I can't speak to that fully because I don't know how that led to. I'm learning this with you all.
So, question: if we aren't underneath the BIE anymore, and we're no longer under the BIA, which that's been for a while, then what protections do we have as an Indigenous community if we are not under either of the bureaus that protect us as Indigenous people?
The protections would be under the board and then under the congressional charter.
So not much.
So, would the curfews change? Would the RAs change? Would our security change?
Well, a lot of that we can change now. That's not set by the BIE or BIA or even federal. Like, our internal housing policies are set by Haskell. So we can change those. And in hiring a director of housing and working with housing, 'cause the way I look at housing is, if we are promoting or endorsing this holistic learning environment, then housing and dining and our facilities, that's all a part of it, right? So if there are changes or revisions to, say, the housing handbook or housing policy that you all want to look at, we have a process for that, right? Within our Haskell development, policy development process, anything that has to do with student affairs, you all as students have a voice through your student government. So any policy revisions to housing, for example, they have to work their way first through student life, and then they would come to what's called the Haskell Leadership Council and the Student Government Association. But if you all have suggestions or thoughts about housing and revisions to that, you can share those. And you can do so through SGA. Right? In the meetings that I have had in the past with SGA, that's what I'm there to do. I'm there to listen to you, because I don't get to visit with students all of the time. If there are issues on campus, if there are situations that need to be addressed, if there are inefficiencies in any of our processes that you are noticing, if there's issues with facilities that you're noticing, and you feel like that's got to go to SGA and then SGA can bring it to me, that's completely fine. As I told SGA in the past, that is the route to do so, and if I don't know about something, I can't fix it, right? So that right there, we can do that right now.
Do you know why it's just webinars and not in person like on Friday?
Most of the board is not in this area, right? So most of the board is around the country.
I understand that, but there were people who were video chatting on a big board
Yep.
during the meeting. Why can't it be the same instead of
Well, I think that's what they're working out. I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I believe it's hopefully gonna be set up like they did before. But I can find that out for you.
So for each range of rendition, though, we think it might be kind of a good idea to have a Haskell vote. Same as how for SGA and for Haskell, Miss Haskell, we have all of Haskell's community come together and say, no, we're for this or against this.
Sure.
Having a similar deal where, well, with each rendition we do a vote, you know, to make sure at least Haskell's voice, not just people overseeing it, but Haskell's voice is heard.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea. Again, not knowing the legislative process, I don't know if that's a possibility. That would be,
Even if it's only in spirit of just, you know, Haskell's for this, or that Haskell community for this, even if it's not a.
so Haskell employees, I would say, based on the ethics guidelines that I have been given and provided out to our employees, I don't think we can do that. Could Haskell students do that? Absolutely, because you're not federal employees, right? Well, some of you might be. I don't know. I know we got some that are both. Yeah, like I don't think Haskell employees could do that, because then it might be seen as sharing their opinions on their professional.
If they did that, would city workers not be able to vote?
I don't, student workers aren't technically federal employees. As in, we pay you, yes, but you don't go through like the whole federal hiring process. Right? So, but let me ask about that, because we've had questions about this in the past. It's like, well, we pay them, but you also don't go through the same hiring processes, and student workers don't have all of the same protections that federal employees have, right? So, I think you would be fine, but I can ask them. it's always, I prefer to ask, just, we can ask and check.
I know you said this is also open to other districts, fine.
Yeah, this is, if you have, obviously, I understand people have questions about the bill, but there are lots of other things that could be affecting the university today, so if you have questions about those.
So something, when I went to a different university, all of them, all the scholarship money, that was distributed like the first week of school.
Yes,
And I was wondering, because this has been an issue for years on this campus.
yes,
Why some people get their FAFSA like the last week of school.
yes.
That's kind of what I like. I'm sure there's a reason, but I feel like it's not really.
There's many reasons.
Maybe
Okay.
to us, yeah.
So, one, we are working to automate the process, because that'll make it a whole lot faster, right? I come from a smaller institution, kind of similar to Haskell, it was a tribal college, and we processed financial aid, not that first week, but it was like 2 or 3 weeks into the semester, a little closer to the census date, because if you overpay students, so let's say you have a student, you give them their Pell money, and then they leave the school early, Haskell has to pay that money back. Right, so smaller schools do that a little differently, and the tribal college where I was at, we actually paid students, like we paid them at census date, we paid them around midterm, and we paid them again after the withdrawal date, okay? But one is automation, okay, we need to automate. Two, our system CAMS is not perfect, and we are working on getting a new SIS that stands for Student Information System. That will hopefully make this a whole lot easier, because we have to import data from the Department of Ed, and then that tells us each individual's funding amount, and then the automation system should work to go through each student's file to look at credits taken, so forth and so on, eligibility, all of that, right? That all should be automated. And then you would apply Pell first, then scholarships, then tribal grants and funding after that, and then work out through the payment system, okay? Our payment system is a federal payment system. And the system that we use every year around late September, early October's is shut down for 2 weeks. We have no control over it. It's called the blackout period. And it's done at the close of the fiscal year, okay? Now, this year that was extended a little bit. And I don't remember if they sent something out or not, but this year we were switched over to a new system. So that extended the 2 weeks to 6 weeks. And since we've come back, it's working through the new system. Okay? There's also, just make sure you have all of your paperwork. And I discussed this with financial aid, and let's make sure we're communicating to students if they're missing paperwork, like stay on top of it to get that paperwork in. Because we forget things, right? We're human. If I'm told, hey, you're missing this piece of paperwork, and I've got a lot going on, I might not remember.
So in regards to timely distribution of the financial aid, if this is something that's been like an annual deficit where we don't have enough people to be able to process this, why are not more people not been allocated or like to use it to like help out?
It's not so much a people thing, it's also just an automation. It's getting our two systems to talk to each other. So we hired a contractor and we actually had to build code to have our systems all talk to each other. And because that was new, obviously new code, there are issues, right? But getting financial aid out sooner is something that when I got here, I'm like, well, smaller schools with fewer resources do it faster. So, well aware.
Are we fixing any of the buildings that are sitting here?
Buildings, all right, building updates. Nothing new on Hiawatha or Minoka yet.
Sitting there, rock.
Parker Hall is getting a new lecture hall, like room, is it 110?
Yeah.
Room 110 is the lecture hall. So Parker Hall is getting another lecture hall on the end with some new office space and some work done down there. Okay. Pocahontas is getting, they got HVAC and then bathroom renovations. That'll be done hopefully in July, so we can have Pocahontas open, and then all of our dorms will be open for July. American Horse, we got the paperwork in. We need a new loading dock. It's a weird thing to need, but we need a new loading dock. So we got that paperwork in, and hopefully work will start on that soon. Little Nations, the daycare, that is out. They're doing work. Like they've done the surveying, everything. So we're hoping, we don't have an official like open date, but we're hoping fall of 26 is when Little Nations will be real. The old building is going to be torn down, right? The old building, mold. It's just mold. Those are kind of the major renovations right now. A new greenhouse complex. So over by Winona will be a new greenhouse with a new multi-purpose building that'll have a classroom in it, office space, and storage. And then the high tunnel, I don't really know what that is, but it's for like greenhouses, I guess. But that'll be over by Winona. And so we're hoping to get that out soon.
We had a board meeting for a row, a couple days ago, and they said we're gonna start having actual police officers patrolling the more often.
So we actually have an MOU with the city of Lawrence, right? And they've always had the ability to patrol. Sometimes they do, sometimes they sit out here and stuff like that.
You keep saying in the dorms.
Oh,
Like they'll walk in and search our room.
that I have not heard, so I will ask about that.
That's what they said.
Okay.
Told us about that.
Who told you that? Cousin?
Yeah, Jay was the one who told us about that.
Okay, I will ask about that, because that was not, so I was not even aware of that.
They said if they smell weed, if they smell alcohol, any trace of that, so
Yeah.
they will search every.
Let me ask about that one. That one's, okay.
I know.
Security, we are looking at moving away from our contractors and actually hiring our own internal security. Okay, working on those, it's called a position description, and we get it posted. The goal is to have our own internal security, that we don't have to contract that.
Is there, as far as like regarding, stepping back to like road cloud stuff, we discussed donations being because of mold. Is like black mold and stuff in road cloud as well as a pest issue?
Robot has a lot.
Right, so like the, not just having like the handicap accessible buttons throughout the entirety of the university.
Okay.
For anyone that's like injured or
So,
elderly or anything like that.
if you go to a building and the button's not working, and you submit a work order, and you don't hear anything about that work order, just let me know. My email's on the website. Just say, hey Frank, I was walking into this building, I put in a work order, I noticed it's still not working. Let me know, we can get those done.
And as far as security goes, in regards to like the unhoused population that's been seen on campus and stuff, and just like in regards to like student safety and things like that, how quickly can you project that the position for security would be filled just for like public safety concerns?
I wish I could tell you. Because some of our positions get filled fairly quickly, some of them take a little while longer. I don't have a time. Right, I would prefer sooner rather than later, because I would prefer to have just our internal teams.
Like, I know that other universities, such as like I can speak of the University of Buffalo, like, I know for some dorms, like you can, I don't know if they used to be the case here, I don't know, like where if you have your student card, you can just swipe it. As long as you can swipe the card, you can open the door.
Yes, key card access, that has kind of been, it's something that I like when I got here, because like I came to Haskell from 1, 2, 3, 4 other colleges, and even our small little Siston-Wapton College in South Dakota had key card access for our dorms, right? To me, I'm like, we should have that, not just for our dorms, but for every building. It would make things so much easier. With key card access, you don't have to sign in and out, manually, because your key card is you signing in and out. So it's something that we're discussing. IT has to look at the network requirements on what we need to get that happening. Then we work with our facilities guys and our locksmith. And we have a new ID machine, so it's called Seaboard. And so we'll be working on transitioning to new IDs, where hopefully we can do a lot more digitally with our IDs. Because again, this is just common stuff in other schools that we should have had here probably a while ago, but don't. So we have the capability, now we just need some of the resources to make it happen.
We were talking about it because it's also like a safety issue, because we've had so many homeless people just walk right into our rooms.
Well, and
Showers.
Yeah.
Make themselves at home.
remind me, because I don't know everything about everything that's going on, but
We had a homeless man.
if you come back to the dorms at night, do they still have to open the doors for you?
They changing it to 11 now.
Okay.
So they are.
That's the house.
Well, road code.
Our county, back doors stay locked after 10 o'clock, back doors locked.
Okay.
If you guys properly doors open, they will get in. If you don't shut your doors, they can walk in.
Okay. Well, how about, let's not prop the doors open. Let's do that for me. But two, with the key card access, every door could be set for key card access.
I'm only asking this because I work over there. Why does Forbes hours cut to 9 in the morning to 4:30 at night? Like, and no weekends, so all the time students are out of classes,
Okay.
Forbes closed.
So, I don't know, I will have to ask on that. But what I've told Thorpe and what I've told other people is this, right? We do have quite a few student workers on this campus, right? Student workers can technically work unsupervised if you have been through the background check that our federal employees go through, right? So with like Thorpe, for example, we could potentially have longer, because we can't make Corey work all hours of the day, but we could potentially have the hours of the gym extended. If we had, I would say we probably need a couple of student workers for safety reasons, right? And this is, again, if we look at what other colleges and universities do, it's student workers running a lot of things in the evening, right? So we can look into it,
Okay.
but we also need students willing to go through the background check, which can take a little
I know
while.
multiple, my colleagues at Forbes would be willing to do
But
that.
I told Corey to do that. I can ask Corey about that. We need lifeguards for the swimming pool. And we've looked at how do we bring people in to do like lifeguard training and stuff like that. So we just need to find a time, one, find the time to do the training. Two, find the people willing to go through the training. And then three, make sure we have the funding to pay student workers to be lifeguards. But the pool could be open, we just need lifeguards. That's it. That's it. So, I can't answer that fully. I believe the new kitchen manager is looking at all the training to catch people up. And so, you could. Feel free to ask her. And if she has questions about what student workers can or cannot do, she can ask me. But there's no harm in asking if that's what you want to do.
And then as far as going back to like safety on campus and stuff, as far as like the rape and sexual kind of harassment issues that have been going on the campus and stuff, like there are some female students and stuff who like run into their predators, victimizers within classes or within the immediate living situations, or they have
Right, so our campus advocate coordinator does have some latitude to make accommodations in those cases, right? And we can work with her because it's oftentimes a question of, keep in mind, our new sexual misconduct policies are still very new. They were just adopted in September, right? And we built those off of a review done by a compliance consultant. And so for some of our stuff, it's definitely still a learning process. We have a campus advocate coordinator that is working with students. When a situation arises or there's an incident, like what latitude they have to make adjustments to courses, or living situations, or anything like that, and then working with the others on campus to understand what all that means. Okay, so if there are specific situations, you can start with her, and then we can work with the others involved.
It would be called the Title IX.
Well, you can't call it Title IX here at Haskell because Title IX doesn't apply to Haskell.
In what regards?
This was actually decided by a federal court in 2017, which is why we call it the Campus Advocate Coordinator, not Title IX.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are the differences between a Title IX and a class?
Well, we wrote it to be as close to that as possible, without calling it.
Why can't you call it, it's federal or?
We can't call it, basically a federal court said this is a federal institution, therefore Title IX is not applicable. Yep.
Why are there no preventative measures? Why is it the responsibility of the victimized student to go out and be like, this happened to me, please fix it? I'm on a no contact order with a student, you guys put me together, I lived with her, they put us in the same room, and not only that, they put us in 2 of the same classes. Why is it my responsibility as a student who was victimized to sit here and say, hey, this was a mistake, please fix it? That shouldn't happen. It should just already be in the system.
Was your advisor aware when they helped you register?
Why does my advisor have to be aware of the things when it's a ban that was placed by Haskell itself?
Because if your advisor doesn't receive that, they don't know.
That's, well, my advisor wasn't even the person who helped me register, it was Liv, because I did it by myself.
Okay, then again, some of this is communication, right? If there's a no contact order and you notice a flaw in the communication, let me know. So I can say, hey, this was in place. Your advisor should at least be aware, right? But how many people go to Lou for registration?
I don't understand how that has anything to do with my advisor, like why our advisors have.
What I'm saying is people may not know the no contact order was in place. We don't publicly broadcast those.
Exactly, like how, it's not even housing's responsibility to even know why the house.
That they should be aware of.
Yeah, but if it's for housing situation, this would not apply. Yeah, housing order together with that person.
It was after they already put the issue, I know the situation,
Yeah,
but like they.
so that one should have been addressed in housing.
But there was both those classes in housing, and I just don't understand how if it's Haskell's system, and it's Haskell's system putting these no contact orders in place, why are they not just common place? Why is that not?
Your
in the
system,
already?
the no contact order doesn't go into CAMs and flag it.
Why not? Why don't we
It's
have it?
not a perfect system. That's why we're getting a new student information system.
Well,
Improving communication wise, that information not communicated with internally with the departments as far as you guys communicating with each other.
Yeah, I'd have to ask student services, because did you get it through the campus advocate coordinator or the dean of students office?
Dean of student office.
Okay, so then I would have to check with them on who they communicate that out to. If it's communicating to you and the other student, or if they're sharing it, say with the registrar's office, so they can at least flag it for the advisors to say, hey, let's be aware of this, so we're not having them in the same class. And the housing one should have been easy to address,
And
right?
it was, but it's just the fact that even my situation is not, I can recognize it wasn't that deep, but there are students on campus who have situations that are that deep, who are in abusive relationships, who have been sexually assaulted and their predators are still on campus. So why are these protective measures not already in place for students in situations like that?
So, this is the first time I'm hearing about this, and I need to know when these gaps exist. if that happened to you, you and I have talked plenty of times. You can tell me that, right?
Wasn't there like a whole congressional meeting about the things that were like not being addressed here in regard to sexual harassment and
There's a lot of things that are
misconduct?
just being shut.
So how would that not be known?
So that's why we have a new campus etiquette coordinator and processes to follow, right? That's why we have a new student code of conduct and processes to follow, right? So if we look at the
Why
processes,
has that not been communicated enough to circumvent these issues that are happened since September?
well, that's what I'm asking you, Dahlia. I need to know where the gaps are. As in, if this communication is not happening, then we can fix that. Right?
But a lot of the times we're told not to.
Yeah, we're told to go through the chain of command.
So there's a
Well,
lot.
if it's a broad enough problem and there's a large enough group of you that understand it's a problem, you can come to me. Right? It's also something that we can work out in student government.
Which I have brought up to the board, I have talked to the advisors, the dorm advisors, they've already, they do understand that these problems are happening.
Right.
And they have communicated these problems with the health director, and we still, we don't see that many changes. Which I understand, it's a lot of students to handle, I understand there's a lot of different cases going on, where you can't individually look at it, and there's 10 to 15 people saying, hey, this person here on campus is a problem, then that person here on campus shouldn't be here.
Right, if something's endemic, then yes, we can definitely look at it. And being that we have you sitting here as SGA president, if you're hearing about an issue enough, you should always feel like you can reach out. Right? That is your job as student body president, as student government officers, is the rest of your student government officers. People may not know me, right? They may hear what, people say, well, just go through the chain of command, and then eventually they'll get to me. But if there is a large enough issue that seems to be persisting across individuals, and you're hearing about it, then feel free to come to me and say, hey, here's a problem that we're having. And this is, as I've told our people in rights of conduct, our new campus advocate coordinator, our new dean of students has been here for all of 5 months. So this was a learning process. If there is a gap, and I'm not talking about just a one-time thing, but there is a pervasive gap in how things are being handled, then feel free to bring that. Okay?
I am the one who brought you the petition when my first semester happened. I got most of the dorm to sign a petition about the man who was being predatory towards the girls.
Okay. Does the dean of students have?
I gave a copy to everybody.
Make sure the dean of students have. Okay?
I believe I know the individual she is talking about.
Because I'm
He is very persistent about it. I myself have been harassed by him on countless other women and men here, actually.
Okay, then talk to me, not after this, but we can set a time, okay? Now, I will be gone next week, but tomorrow's Wednesday, Thursday, I'm fairly free.
I believe every second Thursday of the month should work with me and my staff.
5:30, gosh.
We're all in classes, that's the reason why.
We're very busy.
Man, see, 5:30.
I understand.
Yeah, that ain't.
She puts me to work.
What we will do is, in the past, we would meet once a month. So you can pick a Thursday, if it's like the first Thursday, second Thursday, third Thursday, whatever. Okay?
It would definitely have to be the second Thursday of next month.
Okay, so if we look at that, I'm gone next week, and then the week after, which would be the second Thursday, I'm here.
Okay, so,
Okay.
yeah, it'll be February 13th at 5:30.
Right. So the email I sent, you respond all the names of people on SGA, so that we can set up community meetings. But that's why in the past, I've met with SGA on a regular basis. And Tyler was a part of SGA, we met on a regular basis. Is if there are wide range student issues that are not being addressed, that's SGA's time to tell me about this. And a previous SGA president said, Frank, it just feels like all we're doing is complaining. So if I don't know about something being an issue, I can't address the issue. Right? So if there's a wide range issue that feels like it's not being addressed, then let me know. Okay?
And this should be a good time to say, if you also have student concerns, please do come to the meetings. With those student concerns, though, please do some research, like, and also come up with solutions to get to me as well, because I just go in with concerns without having any solutions in place.
Solution
And I
cell.
am university services, so if you want to talk to me as well, I'm more than welcome to do that.
Yes, solutions help. It also helps having general information. Again, if it's one person, it's like, okay, was that just a mistake or was something not followed? But if it's multiple people, then it's endemic and you can fix it.
So as far as like, being knowledgeable about things, you mentioned that you do know that your pockets a lot of the parent stuff.
Yes.
Like things, I guess each of those are gonna be slated for, like how soon can we expect those,
So with rope cloud is hard. And the reason I'm gonna say rope cloud is hard is because we are bringing people in to take a look at everything. So we first need to know everything that's going on. So bringing someone in to actually do an assessment of the entire thing.
So everybody.
So because then it becomes a question of, do you fix it or do you fix it?
Right, so I'm just asking is, so all students just need to come and say, hey, this needs to be addressed within my room?
Well,
Individually, so you guys know?
like when I say we're bringing inspectors, engineers, like we'll bring in students.
So you just have to wait till the summer when
Yeah.
Right, absolutely, but
But if there's-
something going on in your room now.
Well, think about it. Real Cloud houses, what, roughly 220 students somewhere in there?
Sorry.
And it's not like 300, it's like 220 somewhere in there. Yeah, it would be, without having Pocahontas open, it'd be really hard to close Real Cloud. Right?
Yeah, not to close the entirety of it, just to close the rooms that are like in those.
If there are individual needs, like if you're in a room right now that needs work, that's why I sent out the email at the beginning of the semester, is if there's something and you're like, my hot water's not working, or my heat's not working, or whatever, submit a work order right away.
And you would submit that to the top order.
Yeah. And you can find that on our website.
Yeah, and then also there is someone who works in student union where you go all the way down that hallway down to the a right, and then you go down that path and go to my office.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to talk to him. He is the safety coordinator here for the housing. So he is here to discuss an issue that you might have regarding electricity, regarding heating, anything like that.
Right,
His
so-
offices are in
Yeah, that's Darren. His name's Darren. He's our safety coordinator. Right, but again, if there's an issue in your dorm right now, you as a student can put in a shop order. You don't have to go necessarily to the RA. And if you want to, the RAs know how to put in shop orders, but you can also put in a shop order. Right?
Are the shop orders been put in for the broken elevator or anything like that? Legitimate question, because people are carrying heavy, things
Yes.
down whenever they're moving, like, so most students. Bridges.
The elevator in Rope Cloud is a parts issue. We're waiting for the parts. Yes. Well, to give you an example, our new dishwasher for Curtis that has been ordered, we were told 6 months. So.
Wait, 6 months, really?
6 months when?
So, we can't rush a parts order, right?
Haskell hasn't really had a continuous supply, so a lot of the guys were on their back end of everything. So these
we absolutely need to get to them. And honestly, all of the universities around us are constantly needing renovations as well. So that's what makes it to where just the time change happens. So a lot of the changes here, the reason they take so long is just because Haskell hasn't been doing this with different providers. We're not always at the top of the list.
Well, the other issue also is just a global supply, right? We have to work with whatever global supply. we have. Right? The elevator, I understand that, and we follow up with it, and it's just waiting on parts. Right? Because we also need to fix the elevator and the house.
And then just the handicap doors and things like that, that's.
Handicap doors has kind of come up, they go fix them, then they go out again.
It's
So,
the magnets inside of the doors that are the problem,
Yeah.
actually. So they have fixed them before, and then the magnets just, I don't know, they'll just randomly go haywire. That's been a problem at Shim as well too, because the magnets will sometimes break, so the locks aren't actually working properly. And so that's kind of a part of why the handicaps don't work sometimes, because the doors do have to lock.
and with a new locking system, something that would be replaced. Right? The key card system would help. I know we're working on it. There are, we've submitted a lot of projects, we're just waiting for them to get funded, awarded, and then we move forward. Right? We talked about safety. We have, when we looked at this originally 9 months ago or so, there were only 60 or so working cameras on campus. There are now 170 working cameras on campus, and we have a plan for another 80 or so more. In the dorms, we got all of the RA stations live feed security cameras. Kinda, is it working? You tell me how you're going like this. I'm like, we put them in, like I was shown they work.
They work, it's just, unless you've already been through the entire background process, you have to.
Yeah, because it's on the cams and only the federal.
Well, that makes sense. So, but I instructed that all RAs need to get background.
My thing is, I'm waiting on my background, I already did all the process for it. The people that want me to go through don't do outside background checks because they're hiring for that information for them particular.
Ooh, that doesn't make sense.
Before we like this, that's what they wanted me to go through because before we, which is the university, the hometown or capital of the nation, organization.
Okay, because we do our own background checks. So,
Federal background check.
right, but on the federal side, there's two parts to the federal side. You submit all your paperwork, there's a state check, and then there's a local check. So what I'm hearing is probably they're having trouble getting hold of the local, which is this other MOB that you're selling.
Previous brother.
Right, so, for example, if we hire someone, we have to get your local background check as well. So, because we wouldn't be having them do it, we're doing it, but we're asking them just to run a quick check on you. So, that unfortunately is common sometimes, is that it's the local check that slows things down. But if you're having issues, who started your check? Tracy or Amy?
I think it was Tracy, but it was also last semester we already started, and it still hasn't finished.
Yeah. So,
Talked to her about it.
okay, you can ask Tracy, and she can reach out to the security, our personnel security officer, and they can find out what it's. Yeah. Because a lot of times, in my experience, where a lot of our backgrounds get held up is in the local part. Okay? Okay. But cameras are working, you're just saying they're not there for everyone because they're making you log into cams. That one we get when we get people background. But again, it's a part of the systems that we're updating. Right?
Is there gonna be any more cameras, added towards the campus? I don't know if they're gonna beef it up or anything like that.
Yeah.
Especially in the wetlands.
We were told that at the board meetings that we would get more cameras.
Yeah, that's literally what we're working We have went from 60 to 170. We're gonna cover this next tier area next, and then I don't know what the plan, I have to ask IT and facilities, but that's an ongoing process, is upgrading our camera system, okay? Like, ongoing. Additionally, our campus lighting system, right, so just the general outdoor lighting, and then the emergency system, so the emergency blue light systems. All that has been submitted, we're just waiting for it to be awarded and get the work done.
New fireplaces and gathering areas that are around campus, can we burn in those? Like this over here that has like wood next to it, or the one that's over here behind the lot, we start fires in there for.
You're supposed to be able to, but
I'm just asking because
Yeah.
of the federal bird regulations, and us not being able to control birds and things like that, so I just want to make sure that was.
And sometimes security comes after us.
So for that, you guys have to have okay from the form themselves or whatever you buy, otherwise it will cost. It will start to get weird. That they don't know what's going on. They don't know security. So we either talk to security or board members. That way we have more than one party.
right, so those outdoor spaces were built for student use. So,
And as long as security isn't very involved, you just have to say like, hey, this is what I'm doing, so that security's like, oh, someone already told me that they're gonna have a fire, like a blow up, that's it. And so you can call security, I can tell you their number, it's 765-760-61.
yeah. So that's probably just a very simple, get like an approval, just a quick approval.
Was it say to me like that form?
No,
like that you
no,
should have?
No, that's a utilization space form, that's for facilities to help manage, like, when things happen.
So
Because
like
they
that's-
know setup, tear down, cleaning, stuff like that. No, this would be something very simple, like, very, very simple, and we would potentially house it probably in student recreation. And it would just be like, hey, I would like to go use the fireplace at this outdoor complex. That one would be simple. I wasn't even sure if they were done yet, so if they are done though, easy. All right, a couple more.
So I have one question, just kind of at some of the main topics towards, you said it was freezing the funding for a lot of places. I know that doesn't affect us in work study, but will it possibly delay our payment? Or is it?
You're talking about like the grant funding and thing that came out this morning?
Yeah.
No, they sent out a clarification, Pell grants are not affected. Okay? No, that's not grants. That's our appropriate. So, you're fine.
And then are all scholarships good to come through too?
Yep, scholarships, all that will be fine.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and understand that's a shock when you see it, but we got clarification this afternoon. It's not gonna affect us too much, if at all. Okay?
I think, federal goods actually blocked that federal freezing, funding. So
I don't know, I've been here for 2 hours.
Well, we just got
I haven't checked my messages yet, so,
There was just an announcement.
well, we'll see. As I sent out to our Haskell staff, when the orders come in, we get the direction, we will do all appropriate actions, and then we go from there. That's what we'll do, okay? All right. I'm done. Okay.
Guys, you all have my email, so if you
I'm welcome to talk to you at the time.
I think that tomorrow.